From the North Country's news station, 7 News Tonight starts now.
Warmer temperatures and rain means we have the potential for flooding in the North Country. John Kubis has your details. Plus, aluminum workers in Messina hopeful that new tariffs and fees could level the playing field in their industry. But first, 2 firefighters are injured while battling a massive fire in downtown Watertown. The blaze ripped through a vacant building on Newell Street just off Public Square. 7 News reporter Natalie Kutchko joins us live on the scene. She has the latest details. Natalie.
That's right, Jeff. City police tell us that a brick wall collapsed on 2 Watertown firefighters as they battled the blaze at this vacant building you see behind me, and that all started earlier this evening.
It was engulfed in flames, a lot of smoke. Firefighters are on the roof doing the best they can, trying to put it out.
Bystanders watched as multiple fire crews fought the fire. 2 Watertown firefighters were injured when a brick wall collapsed on them. This is cell phone footage from Todd Phelps, owner of the Black River Adventurers Shop, which neighbors the building. You can see a firefighter getting helped by his colleagues after the wall collapsed.
They pulled the 2 guys out of the area, and you could see them taking care of them, checking them over, getting them on stretchers and putting them in the ambulance.
Huge flames quickly engulfed this Newell Street building that's been vacant for years. It's owned by Samaritan Medical Center and was recently kept empty. Officials tell us no electricity was running in the building. Streets were closed at multiple intersections to keep traffic away from the billowing smoke clouds at the scene. Firefighters are working to determine a direct cause of the fire, and Watertown Fire Chief Dale Herman says,
"There's nothing of value stored within the building. The building should have been secured, and there should have been no power to the building."
Now, Chief Dale Herman also tells us that 1 firefighter was transported to Samaritan Medical Center by ambulance. The other was sent to a Syracuse hospital. Now, there's no word at this time of the extent of those injuries, and we want to tell you that, as you can see, state fire officials are already here investigating. They'll be here throughout the night. Jeff.
All right, Natalie Kutchko live in downtown Watertown for us. Natalie, thanks very much. Meanwhile, Watertown city firefighters taking another shot at city leaders. Last night, the fire union released a statement saying the city was being malicious and also saying city officials are lying to residents.
Lying through omission. They're not giving all the facts. They're not giving the institutional knowledge of firefighting.
That's Dan Doherty, the president of the fire union. Last November, the city ordered the department to cut back on overtime by not filling in for sick firefighters unless there are fewer than 13 men on a shift. Now, Mayor Joe Butler wants to expand that order, cutting overtime for workers for any scheduled absences like vacation or training. In a press release sent out Sunday night, Doherty claims the, quote, deceit and dishonesty that spawned this proposal are nothing short of malice, end quote, and that the citizens of Watertown are being lied to. Well, Mayor Joe Butler is standing behind the proposal and says breaking what's known as minimum staffing saved thousands of dollars in overtime costs so far.
There's nothing malicious about trying to save taxpayers money and getting rid of an unjust contract that's burdened taxpayers for decades.
The proposal will be discussed at a city council meeting Tuesday night. Well, access to guns. There is a renewed national debate after the latest mass shooting. Today in Broward County, Florida, Nicholas Cruz returned to court for a procedural hearing after being charged with last week's slaying of 17 people at a high school. Well, it was the first he attended in person and not via teleconference from jail. Cruz kept his head down and did not appear to make eye contact with the judge or others in the courtroom. Authorities determined Nicholas Cruz had at least 10 rifles in his possession. All of the firearms were long-barreled rifles since 19-year-old Cruz was too young to buy a handgun. Police are still tracking where the guns were purchased, but say they appeared to have been bought in the past year or just before. Well, people living in lower-lying areas around the Black River should be paying attention to this week's warm-up. The National Weather Service says there's still quite a bit of snow on the Tug Hill, and that's going to melt with our 50 and 60-degree temperatures that we're expecting this week. On top of that, more than an inch of rain could fall by Wednesday. It all means we're on the lookout for some flooding. Time now for our first look at the forecast. Let's bring in John Kubis. He has details for us. Hey, John.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, a nice warm southerly wind blowing on through, but the other side of the coin, like you mentioned. Sure, it's going to be mild, but we're going to be dealing with that potential flood threat. Looking at the Northeast Satellite and Doppler radar, brought to you by S&R Automotive in Mansville, your certified AAA Auto Repair Center. Earlier today, we enjoyed some sun. However, it did cloud up, and there you see some of that green showing up in the North Country. That'll be the case all night long tonight, and also for the better part of the day tomorrow, more in the way of rain chances. And notice your temperature is actually on the rise, at least here in the city of Watertown anyways, and even points south and east. A little bit cooler up north, but still I think for the most part we'll all be in the 40s across the board, and by waking up tomorrow morning, temperatures will be warmer than today, courtesy of that southerly wind. Tracking the precipitation, I'm tracking those temperatures, and also we'll talk about how much rain is expected. All that coming up for you in a couple of minutes. Nellie, back to you.
All right, John, thanks. It's thought this could even the playing field. Big tariffs and quotas on imported aluminum could soon be ordered by President Trump after a recommendation from the U.S. Commerce Department. Well, union workers in Messina have been waiting years for this type of decision, arguing cheap government-backed aluminum out of China can take away U.S. jobs. 7 News reporter Keith Benman has more.
The U.S. aluminum industry has been battered by imports. Now the Commerce Department says aluminum and steel from other countries threaten national security. They want President Trump to act. In Messina, they've seen the damage firsthand when subsidized imports flood the market.
If you look at just Messina East alone, it closed there, and there was 500 good jobs that went out the door and never coming back.
Alcoa's Messina East aluminum smelter shut down in 2014. Alcoa's Messina West is one of only 5 active aluminum smelters left in the U.S. Only about 10% of the aluminum used in the U.S. is made here, the Commerce Department says.
People are starting to realize if something ever happened, we'd be in trouble. We don't have aluminum. And if we ever had to go to war or anything like that.
Tariffs could go as high as 24%. That would include Chinese imports, the biggest offender. The United Steelworkers want the president to pull the trigger. So do others.
I hope that the president will take action. I hope that his team will continue to encourage him to take these types of actions that just level the playing field. That's all we're asking for.
Alcoa has issued a statement that it wants Canadian aluminum exempt from any action taken. It says that's because Canadian aluminum is essential to the U.S. supply chain. Instead, it wants the Trump administration to focus its efforts on China. Bringing back American jobs was a key plank in Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. He has until April 19th to decide on tariffs and quotas. In Messina, they'll be watching. Keith Benman, 7 News.
Watertown could soon have more colorful streets. City Council member Mark Walczyk wants to paint some of the crosswalks in the city different colors. They would still be white, but would also be highlighted with another color. Well, council has talked about doing this downtown and by Watertown High School, though there are some restrictions about what can exactly be done.
I think under the Federal Highway Administration guidelines, they have to be a subdued color, so it can't be reflective, but at the same time, it can complement the white.
Walczyk says it would be inexpensive and would add some character to city streets. The proposal would paint the crosswalks by the high school with the school's colors, purple and white. Well, it was a packed house at Lowville's VFW this evening to raise money for medical expenses for Bernadette Rose. She remains in a coma after a severe car accident on December 30th. Her sons, Micah and Isaiah, they're Section 3 champion wrestlers, and their wrestling team coach was the one who spearheaded this event.
I wanted to do something as a wrestling club. They've been big supporters of our club for a long time, and figured this would be a great way to give back. And the community response has been absolutely amazing.
Now, the family has a GoFundMe campaign under the name of Support Bernadette Rose. That's spelled R-O-E-S. Their goal, $10,000, and they are just $600 shy of that goal. The family has brought food to contribute to tonight's event. All proceeds will go toward that $10,000 goal to help the Rose family. Well, tonight in sports, Mel's in with all your highlights, and he has more.
Hey, Jeff, coming up in sports, we will have Bustler's Beauties. Yeah, it is Monday, you know.
And it may be early, but when Mother Nature calls, maple producers have to harvest that sap. We're headed to Croghan next when 7 News continues.
From the North Country's news station, you're watching 7 News Tonight with Jeff Nelson. Tonight's weather with John Kubis. And your North Country sports with Mel Bustler.